All right, here is the warm-up. Hopefully you guys are getting faster at that because as you notice, they are very similar each day or each lesson. So we've got 700, 15.4, 25, 9, 1200, and 21. And now we're going to talk about using formulas. We've been doing this, so this should be review because I've kind of been drilling this in earlier on. For example, they say find A in angle, or in A equals length times width, or that's the formula, area equals length times width, when L is 8 and W is 4. So when I say do it properly, I want you, again, area equals length times width, and then we'd go 8. Now you could write it this way, I just want you to see something. If we put the units in, I'm not a stickler on having the units be part of the question, but it might be a good way to remember to square your units. We'll see. So 8 times 4 is 32, and because we have feet times feet, we actually have feet squared. All right, so 3 steps on this one for area. All right, the next thing though, we're going to talk about the distributive property. And well, no, we're not. I'm going to show you that once we do example 2. Okay, evaluate this when L is 8 and W is 4. Now what this happens to be is the formula for perimeter. Twice, 2 times the length plus the width. So we would put what we know, plug in the data, okay, and then do one step at a time, do in the parentheses first. 2 times 12 is 24, and we've got centimeters. Now if we do it with, I'll do it really quick with the units in the formula. I just don't usually do it this way. So that's, oops, 2 times, I'm just going to leave it, 12 centimeters. Well, 2 times 12 centimeters is 24 centimeters. So the book keeps the units in the formulas. I tend to do it this way. All right, what this happened to be was the perimeter of a certain rectangle. Okay, now there are 2 formulas commonly used to relate the perimeter of a rectangle to its length and width. What it means is there's 2 ways you can do it. You can say the one we just did, to double the length plus the width. So add the sides and double the answer. Or you could double the length and double the width, and you get the same answer. So these 2 are equivalent statements. You can either, like here's a rectangle, and let's say it was a 20 by 30 inches. Okay, the perimeter of this we could say, or you could say 20 plus 30 plus 20 plus 30. Now that takes too long and you guys are faster and better at math now, so we use formulas. So we could do 30 plus 20 is 50 and double it, which would be 100, right? Or we could do 30 times 2 is 60, plus 20 times 2, which is 40, so 60 plus 40 is 100. Both ways work. In fact, this is illustrating what's called the distributive property. And that's when you distribute or multiply what's on the outside times everything on the inside. All right, so let's put this into practice and see if we can make sense of the distributive property. Okay, use the 2 perimeter formulas to find the perimeter of a rectangle that is 30 inches by 20 inches, and now I'm wondering why I left no room for that. That bothers me quite a bit, and I might come in and fix this. So the paper you're going to have will look different than mine, okay? Because I want more space. So I'm going to go and do it this way. Use the 2 perimeter formulas, so we're going to have this formula on one side and this formula on the other side. So these are the 2 options. Double the length and add double the width. So let's here's formula 1, formula 2, and now we're going to plug into formulas like we've just been taught. So we go, okay, 2 times 30 plus 20 equals 2 times 50 equals 100 inches. Now remember, it's perimeter, so we don't square the units, okay? Or we could do this, double twice, 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And we get 60 plus 40 right there. Now notice they are the exact same. Both methods work. So what this is showing us here is called the distributive property. And that means you can go from here and double everything or multiply everything on the inside of the parentheses by what's on the outside. So the outside was 2, so instead we get 2L plus 2W. And let's look at what that means. These three expressions illustrate it. So this is the one we just did. 2 times the quantity L plus W. What we do, and I often use these little arrows to describe the distributive property. And so what we do is, okay, this 2 multiplies by the L and multiplies by the W. So that is 2L plus 2W. So we call that distributive property over addition. Here's another one over addition. Now instead of a 2 and L's and W's, we have an A. So that means A times B plus A times C. And make sure you're writing this. Over subtraction would be A times B minus A times C. Okay, so this is the distributive property. If you haven't seen it before, it might feel a little weird. All right, let's put this into another example. It says show 2 ways to simplify this expression. So let's do one way here. The way that you're used to is take care of the parentheses first, right? Here I'm going to write it over here because we're going to do it differently on this side. So this way we'll just do it as is. 6 times what's in the parentheses, and 6 times 25 is 150. Okay, now the other way would be to do, and it might seem like it'll take longer, but it actually might be easier. Is it easier? 6 times 25, even though that's money, it might have, you go, oh, okay, that's 150. But if it's not something, this is a way to do mental math is what I'm trying to say. And it'll also be a way to do algebra later. So 6 times 20 is 120, and 6 times 5 is 30. Together that makes 150. So it took more writing over here, but we can do this mentally better. And here's the other way. Sometimes it's harder to do 6 times 25. It might have been easier to do 6 times 20 and 6 times 5 and add them together. Alrighty, now you may do the practice and make sure you do the step-by-step method that we showed. Don't leave out any steps. Come back and check your answers or check in the book when you are done. The book does show the steps. Ready and begin. Find A, so what I'm going to do is A equals BH, and that's 15 times 8, and 15 times 8 is 120 inches squared. Okay, evaluate AB over 2 when A is 6 and B is 8. And that is 48 divided by 2, which is 24 feet squared. Okay, letter C. Write an equation using x, y, and z that illustrates the distributive property. All right, so we could do over addition. So we could have this. There is the distributive property at its best. And a couple more. Show 2 ways to simplify 6 times 20 minus 5. So that would be one way, 6 times 15, which would be 90. Or we could do 6 times 20 minus 6 times 5. So distributive property over subtraction. So that's 120 minus 30, which equals 90. Both ways. Need to know how to do both, even though you might wonder why we would write all that. Just trust me on that. All right, find two formulas for finding the perimeter of a rectangle. Don't look back. Hopefully you didn't look back. So here's one. And here's the other. And the last one, describe two ways to simplify 2 times the quantity 6 plus 4. So how do we describe that? You would say one way is to add 6 and 4 first, then multiply. Okay, another is to multiply 6 by 2 and 4 by 2, then add them. Okay, so don't let these description having to write sentence questions scare you. Sometimes they happen, not very often. Just be happy it's not very often. All right, and that is it.